use sign language as their first language. And using a phone, a mobile phone, obviously is impossible. But now with video on Skype, for example, people who are deaf can communicate with each other in their first language, which is sign language. There's also something called Internet Relay Service, which we have in Australia. And that means that a person with a hearing impairment or who is deaf can actually make a call to someone who is hearing through a relay operator. And I'd just like to show you a little bit about that, how that works. I don't think I will be showing that to you actually, because my link is not working as it was a moment ago. So I won't be doing that, but basically the Internet Relay Service in Australia works in several different ways. One of them is a person has a teletypewriter. Holly mentioned that in her presentation. Now that's very old technology, and it's mainly people with hearing impairments who have teletypewriters. So if they want to speak to someone else, they have to go through a relay service. But now you can do that through a particular computer, some internet-enabled mobile phones, contacting the relay service, who then contacts a particular person who listens and responds by speech. The relay officer types that back to the particular person. So there are lots of different opportunities there. I also wanted to mention examples of other technology options. One of the things that we say in the disability movement is nothing about us without us. So when you are designing products, devices, applications, it's very important to actually consult with people with disabilities who might be using those particular products, because they can respond and explain how they would benefit from the accessibility features that you might develop. I was going to show you a video of Greg Stephen. He is a person who has a high-level spinal injury resulting in no movement at all from his neck down. He was an accountant, he was in a car accident, and he managed through technology to do a lot of things, and he is continuing to do that. And the video would show how he uses a computer, and he has a particular spot on his forehead, and there is a monitor on the top of his computer, so it's monitoring his movements, and so they're just very small movements, backwards and forwards, up and down, and that scans the keyboard, and that keyboard, and then he can nod, and that's like doing enter on your own keyboard. And using that, he can do just about anything on his computer. He uses email, he does online banking, he has spreadsheets where he organises timesheets for the carers who come in and assist him with day-to-day activities. He organises photo albums of his family. He has 3 children. And his life is full, obviously, entertainment as well. But he does that just with that little spot on his forehead using the computer. And he uses speech recognition when he wants to do longer emails. And there are many opportunities there. It's just being aware of what's available. I should emphasise, though, that it's not necessary to have a severe disability to benefit from good design of applications. Something as basic as having good quality sound in a multimedia application, for example, will help people who are hearing impairment. who have a hearing impairment, and good contrast on a screen with text means that people who have some vision loss would be able to see the text a lot more easily and clearly. So there's also a role here for international and national policy. There is a United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and I've put in the URL there. There's 148 signatories to the convention and 100 ratifications. This convention is quite new. It's been in operation for about 3 or 4 years. And it was one of those conventions that had a lot of goodwill. It was actually developed and established more quickly than any other UN convention. And it has a range of different articles in the convention talking about the rights of children to education, to employment for adults with disabilities, to be able to live their life on an equitable basis as anyone else in the community. There's Article 9 of a convention that talks about accessibility, talks about accessibility to buildings, talks about accessibility to IT, and talks about providing this at an affordable cost. And that's very important because there is a large number of people who are currently unemployed. And we want to change that. And IT is one way to help people get an education and employment. But there has to be that accessibility to IT to make it happen. Sri Lanka has signed the convention but not ratified it. So signing means that in principle you support the convention, but ratifying the convention means that there are legal obligations to follow the convention. And we look forward to the government in Sri Lanka ratifying that convention. I should point out that Sri Lanka has legislation in regard to non-discrimination of people with disabilities. For example, there is a program for government buildings to be made more accessible, and any new buildings or renovations to buildings are to be made accessible. So there is work being done, but there's always more that can be done. A number of countries have developed policy about public websites being accessible. So that means that government departments, ministries, agencies are then required to produce accessible websites according to those international W3C guidelines I mentioned previously. In Australia, the government has decided to move to version 2 of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And there is now a web accessibility transition strategy for that to occur in the next few years. A number of other countries are doing that as well. I've heard that in Taiwan, the government there is working and has a number of public websites that are accessible. In Fiji, there is also a policy by the government to do so. And there's a lot of countries around the world that are working in this direction. So, whether you work for a company, a government, a university, or an NGO, or are a student, you can help to make a difference. You can spread the word about inclusive design, just picking up some ideas, just thinking about it, and telling your colleagues. Because we really need to find ways to make sure that the internet is for everyone, not just some parts of a community which we think is everyone. And when we're talking about the internet is for everyone, really that includes people with disabilities as well. So thank you very much.